really care to use silver, just because I saw some people that have had some negative results and not so good long-term results using silver. That doesn't say it's bad. It's just say that I found something else that I consider for my application or the way I look a little bit better. You know, it's just like, no, I mean, you like bacon, well, I might like ham. Or, you know, you carrots, I like peas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just don't. So this is one thing that I get a lot of questions emailed to me, and people get mad at me. Well, you don't ever talk about this. Or, you know, I said, well, I am just telling you my views, and that's why, you know, I can't talk to, for one thing, I can't talk to Silver Pulsar because I don't know what it is exactly.
Right.
But on electrical devices, I can talk about, I use a Beck-type protocol and a Beck-type machine. That's what I like.
Well, getting off of that one thing I've noticed, for me at least, I have found that when I'm craving a certain food, it's usually a nutrient, a mineral or vitamin within that fruit that my body is lacking. Now, would you say that's an accurate perception of that?
As long as your pathogen load is not doing the talking.
Right.
Because we'll get back to our example. What was our example before? Over 70% of our cells are microorganism cells. In today's world, that there's supposed to be a balance within that 70% or more. But the problem in today's world is there's no balance. If you've taken antibiotics, prednisone, antifungals, and all that, you have severely upset a balance, and you're actually causing a pathogenic load. That means there's a few strains of microorganisms that can live through antibiotics and these other chemicals and actually get stronger, and MRSA is one of them.
Okay.
And and fungus is another one. Also, there's like 14 different kinds of candida. There's E. coli, salmonella, staph, strep, listeria, clostridium, and the list goes a little bit further than that. But my point is, those microorganisms can live through an antibiotic chemical insult, and it causes them to be stronger, but at the same time, it kills off all the other ones that we really need. So then when we get into these craving things, when you have a pathogenic load, let's say you have a candida overload, which is extremely epidemic in today's world. That candida, because it's the bigger population, there's more candida cells than human cells, the cravings for grains, nuts, seeds, and tubers, for example, because they are high carbohydrate, which drive up the blood sugar, which the fungus or the candida is doing the craving, and it's superseding its will in your will as your will, so you feed it. So now it's the pathogens doing the talking, because a healthy human body does not crave anything that raises the blood sugar, because a blood sugar spike is totally unnatural and it's very unhealthy. A healthy body only craves amino acids and minerals or foods that are high in those elements. So one of the first things to go away that people that I work with, their cravings change. They go more towards like what you're talking about. You know, I really want some. You know, I want some strawberries, or maybe I really want a glass of milk, or maybe they don't say the thoughts for donuts and pastries and pastas and sugars and candy bars and soda pops and you know, they slowly decline because the pathogenic load is going away.
Well, I know for me, I don't have those particular types of cravings, probably because they've never really been a part of my diet. Rice is definitely not in the forefront of my diet. But for me, some of the things that I go through periods of cravings for would be like olives or mushrooms, even tomatoes. Oh,
I've been craving tomatoes this spring. I'm telling you what.
Oh, I know. I just put 3 plants in the ground. But, yeah, those are the types of cravings I have, you know, more or less.
I have a...
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I myself don't have the... I'm going to just call them junk food cravings, you know. It's just not me. But I know a good portion of society it is, but...
Well, I can speak from my personal experience because I was a junk food addict. I mean, I was raised typical middle class, middle of the, you know, Central America. You know, we had white bread, we had pastas all the time. I mean, my favorite snack when I come home from school was 6 slices of white toast with butter and a tablespoon of white sugar.
Ew, yuck.
Yeah, well, I say yuck now, but...
Now, I would come home from school, and my favorite thing was to go out, pick a lemon or 2 off of Grandma's lemon tree, cut them up into wedges like I would an orange, sit in front of the cartoons and suck on lemons.
Well, my kids like that, but we didn't have lemons. Living in the upper Midwest, those kind of fruit did not grow, so we were...
right. Right.
But I grew up in that, and I'll tell you what, even today, when I get stressed and don't get enough sleep, I will find myself feeling cravings for that. And there's a definite association. It's the same time that I can tell that there's a little fungal overload that takes place when I get extremely tired and stressed, and I'll get a little itching in my little toe.
Really?
Every single time that it never fails. Yeah, because I have a little population explosion going on because of the stress state of being. And then what happens? They want to be fed, don't they? And I'll find myself thinking, you know, maybe I should, you know, the old habits come back. But and I disregard that, and then we cut down on the fungal problem, and then the cravings are gone.
Wow.
Yep. And I got a whole book that I wrote the majority of a book about that. It's in the publishing process now, so we'll be able to find it on your website as well as mine.
Oh, definitely.
And hopefully,
yeah, it'll be out there.
I'll get Dave a copy here, and it talks about the fungus among us.
You did definitely that, huh?
I want to say something. Whenever I had Billy Fay Woodard here, he was talking about cancer being caused by a mold, primarily from the oak tree.
Well, that's similar to the theory of the cancer of a fungus. I don't think the microorganism causes the cancer. That's my opinion. And I've attempted to communicate that to there's an Italian fellow, can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's talking about fungus is a cancer, and cancer is a fungus or a mold. And I believe, just the way my research is showing with how microorganisms operate, and this goes for the same microorganism or mold off of the oak tree, is they're there because it has a food source. And I believe the fungus or the mold is actually trying to do us a little favor, because their diet, the diet of the molds and the fungus, is dead, dying, and damaged tissue. And what's cancer? What's cancer? It's damaged tissue.
Yep. It is.
So, and I believe, and my theory from my research is leading me to believe that the mold and the fungus is there trying to eat the cancer as its food source. So that in itself, when you look at the funguses and the microorganisms as they're naturally what they do, and then you put it into the degraded bodies that we live in, that molds and funguses inside the human body is an epidemic proportion. And I got people that have black mold that usually they used to be like around the shores where there's a moisture and stuff, is now going inside the intestinal tract. They're inside your brain, inside your inner ear, inside your lungs. And that is incredible. And when I attempted to share that in that cancer is fungus theory camp, and I get laughed and scoffed at all the time. But you know what? I'm sticking to it because that's what I believe, and I found that to be true because of the research that I found. And you deal with the fungus, you'll deal with the cancer, yes. And what really opened my eyes up is there was a gentleman that was in the middle of taking, when I got introduced to him, he introduced himself to me, he was in the middle of taking the baking soda and maple syrup therapy. Mm-hmm. He actually killed himself taking baking soda and maple syrup.
Really?
Following that exact therapy of trying to kill the cancer because cancer is fungus.
Oh my.
So, that's what sparked me into this whole line of thinking of maybe cancer isn't a fungus, because I was believing it up to a point. And it would only stand to reason that mold from the oak tree would be able to grow inside your body because we're finding black mold in your people's brains, in their inner ear. I got a machine that picks up frequencies of that mold, so I can tell if it's in somebody's body. And my machine is picking up these crazy molds that and microorganisms that only used to be out into the environment.
Oh, wow.
Does that mean they have been genetically modified?
No, it does not. It's just in nature. It's because the mold and fungus and these microorganisms are only there because of a couple of reasons. Because there's a food source, and because the environment is right for them to live and reproduce. And yes, some of them have been altered genetically and weaponized and then dumped back on us in the environment because we're finding them in the environment. And there's patents for them.
Really?
Just like the seed companies have patented the seeds, the medical system has patented some of these biological warfare agents because it's all about monetary reward. If you can patent the problem and you can patent the repair of the problem, you have a cash cow. And in today's medical world, in order to get your PhD or your doctorate, you have to not only patent and get a remedy, but you have to also patent and create the problem for the remedy.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense.
It's all about the money.
Yeah. Well, just another little thing, but I don't want to go into it big time today. I kind of would like to maybe hit it on another day, and you know, maybe in the next couple of weeks. But I've had problems with my skin cancers for many years. But I've been sitting here thinking, the more I'm going down these rabbit holes, and trying to place myself in where was I when these things started happening? Where was I when I started getting these skin cancers out of nowhere? And one of the things that I have come down to is the place I was at when I first developed skin cancer several years ago. There was a smart meter on the house that I was living in. And I've moved several times. At the time, I didn't know anything about smart meters. It's only been recent that I've learned about smart meters. but where I am at now, my smart meter is not attached to my house. It's actually